Mr. Riley here with the final topic in our percents unit, and that is on simple and compound interest. Very important topic for finances in the future. So we showed you a couple of videos about how simple interest works for loans and for savings accounts. So we'll just quickly go over the vocabulary here, starting on page 281 in your book. So interest is money that you get paid by the bank when you give them your money in a savings account, or money that you have to pay back to the bank when they give you a loan. Simple interest is always paid just on the initial principal, the amount of money that you start with when you start, either make the deposit or take out the loan. Okay, so the formula, very important here, the formula for interest is interest equals principal times rate times time. And rates are always given as annual rates, the interest rate for 1 year. So the time is always in years, and the rate in the formula here is written as a decimal. So even though it's always given to you as a percent, you use the decimal version of the percent in the simple interest formula. So you should be able to calculate the simple interest for any situation if you are given the principal, the starting amount, the rate, and the time. And you just multiply those three things together. Again, remembering that the rate must be done as a decimal, so 0.045 here for 4.5%, and that the time is in years. So 1,000 times 0.045 times 2, and the answer you get here is the amount of interest that you earn or that you have to pay on this $1,000 principal. So you earn $90 here. We'll always use savings. It's the more, unless it's a specific real world problem. I kind of just talk about savings. It's a more positive thing than having to pay on a loan. So problem B here, example B, not any different here. $2,500 at 6.75% for 3 years. So the principal is $2,500. The rate 0.0675. 675. Multiply those and you get $506.25 interest. Sometimes they'll ask you for what the total amount in the account is after this amount of time, and you add the interest to the original amount. So in this part B here, at the end of this situation, the person would have $3,006.25. Got it? All right, here's two problems for you to do. 1A, $222.50 at 6% for 4 years. Interest equals principal times rate times time. You should, for your work, for all of these, show your substitutions into the simple interest formula. Okay, so I'm going to want to see this in a text box or insert it in your work. Principal times rate as a decimal times time, and then you can just write your answer, $540. 1B, 4,000 at 4.25% for 1 year. 4.25%, 0.0425. Do not round any of these off. Only round the final answer to the nearest cent, typically. And this one comes out to $170. All right, so hopefully you're fine. These are very quick. These simple interest, calculate the interest problems. Okay, well, sometimes you can go a little bit backwards, and maybe you're given the amount of interest and the principal and the time, and you want to find the rate. All right, so here, Mr. Gable borrowed $1,860 to buy a computer. He's going to pay $71.30 per month for 30 months. And this is normally when you take out a loan, you owe a certain amount every month. They take the entire period of the loan, the term of the loan. They divide the total amount you're going to have to pay into the number of months, and then that's how much you pay each month. That process is called amortization, which can get pretty complicated when you're talking about big amounts of money like your mortgage on your house. All right, anyway, so here, 30 months, $71.30 a month he's paying, and the original computer was $1,860, okay, or the original loan. So first you have to figure out how much he actually paid over 30 months. So if he paid $71.30 each month for 30 months, then his total payments, the total amount of money he paid over the 30 months is $2,139. Okay, so this is going to tell you then how much interest he paid, because whatever the difference is between that amount and the amount that he borrowed, that's the interest. So that's why they subtract those two things. And it turns out he paid $279 interest over this 30-month loan. Okay, so the principal, $1,860, the original amount of the loan. You know the interest, $279. You know the amount of time, 30 months, right? Notice that they do not put 30 months in here, right? They don't put 30 in for T. They put 2.5 in for T, because that's how many years 30 months is, right? So you have to divide the months by 12 in order to get the number of years. Okay, so now we know everything except for the rate. So you multiply these two things together. You get 279 equals 4650R, a one-step equation, right? So divide both sides by 4650, and your answer is 0.06, which is R. Okay, and remember that's R as a decimal. So your final answer, the interest rate that he was paying, is 6%. Got it? Well, here's one of those then. Nantai put $2,400 in the bank for 5 years. So this is a savings account and not a loan. That's a little bit better. $2,400 in the bank for 5 years, and he gets $9.20 each month. So what is the annual interest rate? Now, this doesn't happen in the real world like this ever. We'll talk about that more on later when we have class. But so for this one, 5 years, how many months is that? You multiply that by $9.20 to figure out, okay, how much interest he has been paid. Okay, so it's 60 months. 5 years is 60 months, and $9.20 each month. So the total amount of interest is 60 times $9.20. That's the interest. The principal is $2,400, and the time is 5, and we're again looking for the rate. So that's $552 in interest that he earned over the 5-year period, or he, sorry, it says he. 2,400 times 5 is 12,000. So 12,000 times the rate is equal to the $552 total interest. Divide both sides by 12,000, and you get 0.0046. That is the rate as a decimal. So the annual interest rate, 4.6%. 0.046 is R. That's 4.6%. All right, so that's simple interest. And really in 7th grade, even in 8th grade, really simple interest is the only thing that we really are going to work with. The other type of interest, which actually simple interest is not really used in the real world much at all. Most things in the real world, in fact, all things in the real world, use compound interest. Okay, and the difference is that compound interest, you pay interest not only on the original amount you started with, but you pay that percent on the amount, including the interest that's already been paid. Okay, so again, if it's a savings account, you earn some interest each year, and then the next year, the principal for that year is the starting amount. Okay, same thing if you have a loan. You owe money on a loan. The interest that you'd paid on the loan, you have to pay interest then on that total amount. So it can be a little bit complicated. It will get complicated, but you'll learn more about it next year in algebra. Okay, so for now, we'll just do some simple savings account compound interest for a couple of years. All right, so what is the total amount of money in an account where you start with $600? The interest rate is 8.75%. It's compounded annually, which means at the end of each year, you take the new amount of money, and then that's your new principal for the next year. That's how it works, okay, for 2 years. So basically, you have to do this 1 year at a time. So you use the simple interest formula, I equals PRT, and you find out how much interest this account makes in 1 year. So you start with a 600 principal, 0.0875 times 1 year, $52.50 is the interest in the first year, which means at the end of the first year, the balance is now $652.50. All right. So because it is compound interest, the second year, the principal is going to be $652.50. Okay, so you start with not just the original principal, but the principal plus the interest already earned. So now the second year, the principal is $652.50. The rate is still the same. And the time is again 1 because you're only going to look at now 1 year. Okay, so because you're always finding interest for just 1 year at a time, T is always 1 when you are calculating compound interest like this. Okay, you never put 2 in here. It's just a question of how many times you're going to have to do this step. So the second year, this account makes $57.09. So the total amount in the account after 2 years is $652.50, the starting amount of the second year, plus the $57.09 that it makes in interest in the second year. So the total amount is $709.59. Got it? All right, so here we'll walk through this one because these are a little bit confusing. What is the total amount in the account if $5,000 is invested at 5% compounded annually after 3 years? Okay, and we'll talk more about this compounding intervals just a little bit in class next time we get there. All right, so interest is principal times rate times time. We start at $5,000 principal, 5% interest, 0.05, and we're going to see how much interest is earned in the first year. So it's 5,000 times 0.05, 5% of 5,000 is $250, okay? So at the end of the first year, this account is worth $5,250. That becomes the new principal for year 2. So in year 2, it's going to earn interest on $5,250 at 5% for another year, 1 year at a time. This comes out to $262.50. So in the second year, it is now made $262.50. The total amount at the end of the second year, then you add that onto the starting amount of the second year. And the new principal in the third year is $55,1250, $5,512.50. Third year makes 5% again for 1 year. And so the interest earned in the third year is $275.63, rounding off to the nearest cent. And I will tell you that because these things keep getting, you're going to end up with a lot of decimal places here. You get rounding errors here where your answers, depending on when you round and how much you do, leaving numbers in your calculator and rounding them off and putting them in your calculator again, you might be off by a couple of cents here, depending on the amounts of money that you're talking about, okay? You can round this off every year because it's going to be rounded to the nearest cent. So now the total amount then after year 3 is the starting amount in year 3, $55,1250 plus $275,663. Okay, and that is a total of $5,788.13. Okay, so when you compound, you have to calculate compound interest, you do 1 year at a time because you have a new starting amount each year. And the time is always just 1 year, 1 year's worth of interest on a new principal. All right, so let's just do a couple quick got it problems here on the couple guided practice problems here. Page 283, before we set up for a good independent practice assignment in the next class. So find the simple interest for problems 1 and 2. Find the simple interest to the nearest cent. $1,350 at 6% for 7 years. The formula is always the same. Write down what you put in for everything in the formula. So the interest is $1,350 times 0.06 times 7 years. And that turns out to make $567. Number 2, $240 at 8% for 9 months. How many years is 9 months? What are you going to put in for T? So 240 is the principal, 0.08 is the rate, and T, 9 months, is 0.75 years. 9 divided by 12. 9 divided by 12, and use decimal always because you're going to put all this in the calculator. So 9 divided by 12 is 0.75. 9 months is 3/4 of a year. And so the interest now in number 2 is $14.40. Number 5, Mateo's sister paid off her student loan of $5,000 in 3 years. That's good. If she made a payment every month of $152.35, what was the rate on her loan? Round the rate to the nearest hundredth. All right, so $5,000 was the loan amount in 3 years. She paid $152.35 each month. How much money did she pay total? How much total money did Mateo's sister pay over the 3 years? That's $152.35 times 36. Okay, so that total amount is $5,484.60. 36 times 152.35 is $5,484.60. So subtract off the original $5,000 balance, and you get $484.60. That's the principal. That's the interest that was paid on this 3-year loan. Okay, we don't know what the rate is. The starting amount was $5,000, so 5,000 times 3 is 15,000 times the rate is $484.60. Divide both sides by 15,000 and you get 0.0323. 0.0323 as the rate. So what percent was this student loan? Rounded to the nearest hundredth, 3.23%. 3.23%. And let's see, 2 compound interest problems. Ouch, sorry about that. We'll only do number 6 here. Okay, so what is the amount if the interest is compounded annually? $480 at 5% for 3 years. I'll give you a chance to put in your final answer and see if it's right. Here's all the work. It'll take a while, so pause the video while you're working this out. So first year, $480, 5%, a total of $24 in interest for the first year. So add that on. The beginning of the second year, you now have $504 as your new principal, 5%, 1 year again, because now this is just the second year of the of this account. So that amount of interest is $25.20. So add that to the starting $504, and now you have $529.20. $529.20, 5% for 1 year again, the third year, and your interest is $26.46. Add that to the $529.20. That gives you your final balance in the account after 3 years, $555.66. Okay, so that's simple interest and compound interest. I'll save this last one. And we'll give you some simple interest problems, some easy ones. Those are pretty straightforward. And then we'll talk more about compound interest and do some more interesting problems in the next class.